프로듀서, 배우 샘워싱턴, 조샐다나, 시고니위버, 스티븐랭 모두 무대로 모시겠습니다. 올라와 주시기 바랍니다. 네, 반갑습니다. 반갑습니다. 이제 여러분들 모두 자리에 앉으시고요. 일단은 오늘 여기 오신 기자님들께 인사 말씀과 함께 한국에 방문한 소감 한 말씀씩 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
Big welcome to Korea. So would you first, yes, I see you. Would you please greet the press very briefly and tell us how you feel today and perhaps how Korea has received you? Starting with you, James.
It's great to be here. It's great to be here to talk about the film. So thanks for everybody showing up. It's a huge group, so I guess that's a good level of interest. I know that some of you saw the film last night. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We're happy to be here representing the film, and I'm especially happy to be here with my amazing cast. In fact, I don't need to say another thing. Actually, we can hear from them.
How about you, Sam?
My room is very nice too.
How about you, Sam?
It's wonderful to be here. Everyone's so friendly. It's we're just very, very, very excited to share this film.
And Zoe?
Yes, thank you so much for the warm reception. We know how special Avatar was in your country, and we're just so excited to share the next journey of Avatar with you all.
And Sigourney?
We could feel the warm welcome right away, and everyone has been not only warm but very polite and taking very good care of us here. We're so excited to be here in Korea sharing this film with all of you and with the audience because we feel there's a special love from Korea for Avatar: Way of Water, and I think we're all so incredibly proud of it and eager to share it with you.
Huge gratitude for such a gracious and warm reception from all of you in this wonderful, wonderful country. As Americans, we cherish the relationship that we've had with Korea for so long. It's just great to be back.
And it's great to be back. I was here 6 weeks ago, and the welcome then was terrific, and the welcome now is even better. And last time I was here, I got to hint at some of what people will experience, but I think everybody who saw it would agree. Avatar: Way of Water is something that is meant to be seen on the big screen in the cinemas.
네, 맞습니다. 여러분들 모두 우리나라에서 뵐 수 있게 돼서 정말 반갑고요. 어제 영화는 정말 믿을 수 없을 정도로 너무너무 멋있는 작품이라고 느꼈습니다. It was awesome. 정말 멋있었어요. 자, 그럼 이제 본격적으로 아바타 물의 길에 대한 이야기를 기자님들과 함께 나눠보도록 할 텐데요. 질문이 있으신 기자님은 손을 들어주시면 저희가 마이크를 전달 드리도록 하겠습니다. 질문하실 때 매체명과 성함 얘기해 주시고요. 궁금한 점 많으시겠지만 시간이 한정되어 있어서 가능한 여러 기자님들께 질문 기회가 돌아갈 수 있도록 질문은 한 분께 하나씩 부탁드립니다. 자, 그럼 첫 번째 질문부터 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 첫 번째 질문 어느 쪽에 가 계신가요? 네, 저 가운데로 가겠습니다.
영화 감동적으로 잘 봤습니다. 제임스카메론 감독님과 시고니위버 배우님께 질문 드리겠습니다. 영화가 전편에 이어서 소금 문명이 아시아, 아프리카, 아메리카, 원주민을 침탈했던 역사에 대한 범죄 고백서 같은 부분이 있었어요. 그러니까 그런 부분들과 인간에 의해 자연이 파괴되는 모습들, 강한 좀 분노의 감정을 보여주셨는데요. 감독님께서 인류에 대해서 이런 부분에 대해서는 정말 중요한 메시지를 전달하고 싶다. 이 영화를 통해서 그런 부분이 있으신지 말씀드리고요. 시고니위버 배우님께는 제임스카메론 감독님과는 에이리언 2편, 아바타 1편에 이어서 이번 작품에서 작업을 함께 하셨는데 환경운동가이시다 보니까 본인에게 있어서 이번 작품이 가지는 의미가 남다를 것 같아요. 이거 관련해서 말씀 부탁드립니다.
So I have, the first question goes to James and the second question goes to Sigourney. The first question for you, James, is that, Avatar series in general, to me, it reminds us of Western power exploiting resources and the cultures, indigenous people, Asia, basically outside of those power countries. And also it talks about how human greed destroys everything, including the environment. So if you could encapsulate what you tried to say, I'm sure your message has something to do with humanity and we can feel that in your film. So it'll be great if we'll give you an opportunity to say the statement. And then I'll ask you the second question to Sigourney after James replies.
Well, I think you're absolutely right about the thematic message of the first film and the second film. The difference is that in the second film, we're not talking about mining or extraction. We're talking about the exploitation of the oceans. And the oceans are very important to me as a diver, as an explorer. I've spent thousands of hours underwater. I love the ocean. I love what it means to us, kind of symbolically, even subconsciously. I think we all know that the ocean is kind of our mother. It's where life came from. It's what moderates life on this planet, makes life possible for us. And I think we also all know, even if we try to tune it out, that the oceans are in trouble, that a lot of species are endangered, a lot of whale species, a lot of dolphins are being killed as part of great fishing fleets and so on. And then we have to do better and we have to try harder. But that said, I think the film is an adventure first and foremost. It's a family story, first and foremost. It's a drama. It's an emotional story. It's not a film that beats you over the head with its message, but I think it does make you feel. I think it makes you feel more than it makes you necessarily think about it in terms of it doesn't tell you what to do. It just asks you to feel something for the oceans. And then maybe, at least for a few people, that may translate into action.
Thank you. And Sigourney, so speaking of which, you're an environmental activist yourself, and this is your second time being involved in this wonderful project, so I'm sure it means a little bit more than you as someone who cares about the environment. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, I'm so proud of, I agree with Jim that we don't hit people over the head, but you are involved in so much that happens underwater, so much that involves other sea creatures, and it's a very personal experience. It's certainly not a lecture. It is often a very thrilling and also sometimes heart-rending experience. My character, Kitty, she feels it all very, very strongly. She's someone who feels more at home in the forest or underwater with the creatures and the plants. And so I think she experiences some of the things that happens well, we all do, but especially Kiri is filled with feeling and takes some action about that. It was a great thrill to be in this movie, and we hope that it will again bring the planet together so we can work together to really make a difference with climate change together.
제임스카메론 감독님 질문 드리겠습니다. 우선 기존 아바타는 좀 전 인류적인 가치를 담더라 이번에는 가족주의적인 느낌이 강한데 구성에 관련된 거고요. 한국에선 이런 구성애나 가족 영화들이 많이 있었는데 지금 이 시점에 가족주의로 간 이유가 궁금하고요. 그리고 두 번째는 이 러닝타임 관련된 겁니다. 숏폼이 전 세계적으로 유행인데 이 영화는 3시간이 넘는 러닝타임을 갖는데 이 영화를 그 정도의 길이를 고수하신 이유를 듣고 싶습니다.
And this question also goes to you, James. And, there are two questions. First one is, as you said, this time around in Avatar, The Way of Water, our main focus is not just on human greed or exploitation, but about the fatherly love, the value of family. And there are lots of Korean films whose theme involves family and takes great importance in Korean culture. So why this time? I mean, in the context of the time that we live in, why should we bring our eye to who we are, as a family? The second question is about the running time. Perhaps I'll ask the question after you answer. Yes.
Well, I think that this also would be a good question for any one of the cast members here, because we all have families, we all have children. We all, I think, agreed that this was something worthy. You do a science fiction film and you go to another planet and you see these amazing creatures on this alien world. It's important to ground it dramatically. People in the audience haven't been to another planet. They haven't done all these amazing things, but they've been part of a family. Even a few people who maybe don't have a family wish they did, or think they wish they did, because families aren't easy. Families are difficult. This is a love letter to family and how family makes you stronger, but it's also kind of tough, and we see a lot of tension between Sam's character and his sons, and and Zoe as a mother. We see Zoe. If you want to talk about that mother instinct that you were talking about, why don't you say something about that?
I think that, after having conversations with you when you called us and you said you were already ready and you had, your second movie, it was about, Jake and Neytiri fell in love in the first movie, so obviously our trip to Pandora was a love story, and it was also about a boy, wanting to find a place where he felt like he could belong, which these are very relatable themes. Jim felt that the continuation, the natural progression, just for Jake and Neytiri, was for them to start a family. But what do you do when you're raising a family in a time of war and great turmoil? You still steal moments of joy. You still find moments to encourage your kids to eat their vegetables and go to bed early, while still, teaching them skills on how to stay alive. So Jim wanted to follow that theme of how relatable family and the complexities of family can be, but set against a beautiful backdrop of Pandora again.
One of the reasons I wanted to come back and do another film was because of the family that we had created, our creative family, right? And it was respect for these actors, and so I had to figure out a way to get Steven back into the story, right? And then his story even is about family, because he has this interesting relationship with the son, but it's the son of his biological former self. Is that his problem? Clearly that becomes a relationship. I figured out a way to bring Sigourney back and having her be adopted in by the Sullys, by Sam and Zoe's characters. So I was really just trying to figure out a way for us to get the band back together and have the kind of creative relationship that we had the first time, because it was so joyful for me, out of my whole career, to have made the first Avatar film. If we could reproduce that experience, I think we all wanted to do that.
And the second question was actually about the running time. I'm sure you're aware of this huge trend of short forms, and now people watch very short videos. Their attention span is not as long as before. Then why this long? Why this film had to be this long?
I've never heard anybody complain about getting more for the same price, except they do with movies. If you got more of anything, you got more beef for the same amount of money, you wouldn't complain. Look, there are short novels and there are long novels. This one's a long novel. Doesn't mean it's a bad novel, okay? So, no, I mean, to put it in perspective, it's shorter than Titanic, and that worked out okay, right? So, we haven't had, from people that have actually seen the film, we haven't had any complaints about the length yet. To me, more of a good thing is more.
We also think of it as 2 hours and 72 minutes.
It's healthy. 2 hours, 72 minutes.
감독님한테 짧게 여쭤보고 싶은데 이 아바타 2를 처음부터 이렇게 할 때 그 물을 소재로 하고 싶으셨는지 바다를 소재로 처음부터 이렇게 정하셨는지 샘워싱턴 배우한테는 가족을 가진 가장을 이렇게 연기를 하셨는데 책임감을 많이 보인 것 같아요. 어떤 면에 중점적으로 좀 묘사를 하고 싶으셨는지 좀 궁금합니다.
So one question for James, and then after that, one question for Sam. James, so why the backdrop of water and the backdrop of the ocean? Why are you taking us to the ocean? That's my question. Let us start from there.
Okay, well, I think that you've seen me do films before in the ocean, like The Abyss and Titanic, obviously. And I think anybody that's followed my career as an explorer, working with National Geographic and others, knows that I've done 8 expeditions around the world, diving to deep places of scientific interest. Even built my own submarines and my own deep ocean robotics. So I've had a relationship with the ocean that, in my mind at least, is as important to me. It's not as important to film fans, but it's as important to me as movie making. Now, most people that are movie makers don't have a whole other life. They're kind of 100% devoted to that. But I've always been kind of split between these two worlds. So I thought, at least by making a film about the ocean, even though it's the ocean on another world, I can, give something back from a standpoint of, conservation and preservation of the oceans. And I can just work with that which I know and that which I love, which is important. So I mentioned before that one of the reasons I wanted to come back was to work with this amazing cast and this kind of creative family that we had created. And the other reason was to do something about the ocean and its beauty. To me, the ocean exists in my mind in this kind of dream world state. I have often have dreams about being underwater and being with amazing fish and biomass, and I just wanted to convey that artistically. I don't think it should be a big surprise, but thank you for giving me a chance to kind of spell it out.
And Sam, so this time around you play a father. And what was your main focus, or what did you pay most attention to really express that parenthood?
Well, personally, I would do anything for my family and for my sons. And so I think, to me, the movie was about, the first film had Jake opening his eyes to a new culture, a new planet, and a new love. And to me, I found it was a simple story of a man trying to protect all that. So he was trying to protect the culture, protect the way that he had learned. As with any James Cameron movie, Jim deals with outsiders who are always up against an insurmountable challenge and find a way through that, through love. Rose and Jack on Titanic, they survived that through their love. Sigourney's character in Aliens, through the love of Newt. So to me, that's what I hung on. So even when the story got challenging to do and difficult, and that was always a through line for me.
전 랜더 프로듀서님께 질문 드릴게요. 케이트윈슬렛이 타이타닉 이후 좀 오랜만에 함께 하셔가지고 화제인데 좀 오랜만에 작업하신 소감 좀 듣고 싶고요. 그리고 배우분들 좀 간단하게 13년 만에 소편 선보이게 되신 소감도 좀 듣고 싶습니다.
모든 배우님들께 그 질문을 할까요? 아니면 아직 답을 안 하신 분들에게 할까요? 다 모든 분들께요?
안 하신 분들 위주로.
네, 알겠습니다.
네, 그러면 제가 첫 번째 질문은 아무래도 감독님한테 간 것 같고요. 두 번째 질문은
프로듀서님. 네,
프로듀서님, 그 다음에 스티븐랭 배우님께 여쭤볼까요?
네, 알겠습니다. So, John, the Avatar this time, you got to work with the great Keith after Titanic. How was it for you? How was it, having her back to the set and working with her?
Well, everybody's talking about family. And when this cast came back to us on the first day, it was like a family reunion. It wasn't about the time we were away from each other, it was about the time we spent together. And I think Kate was that same thing. When Kate came back, it was like a family reunion. And she came back in the middle of the shoot. One thing I'll always remember, some of our younger cast was a little bit nervous about her coming in the middle after they developed relationships with all of you. And she walked onto the set, and she saw Bailey Bass, who plays her daughter, and Bailey sort of nervously held out her hand to shake Kate's hand. And Kate said, "No, give me a hug." And that's Kate. And that's how Kate just dropped right back into the family that is Avatar.
Wonderful. And the second question goes to Stephen. So you reprised this role after 13 years. I mean, how does that work, coming back to the set after 13 years? And what was your first, impression when you came back? And how was it for you during the process?
Well, of course, it was absolutely thrilling for me to be asked back, because I did take 2 very large arrows to the chest in the first, and one would think maybe I'd be gone. But I'm so delighted that Jim felt that there was still some depths to be plumbed in this character, and that he could be useful. And so I took that as a mission to try and preserve what makes Quaritch Quaritch, which I think can be traced to this relentless quality that Jim Cameron writes into all of his antagonists. And at the same time, to expand upon that and to go a bit deeper, to learn more about him, to see if there actually is a heart, if the character does have a heart. And so working on it together with Jim and with this great ensemble just gave me an opportunity to try and find more out about this character, and maybe not just be considered to be such an absolute villain of the piece.
감독님한테 질문드리자면요. 그 1편이 3D가 이제 핵심 코드였다면, 제가 보기엔 2편은 이제 하이프레임이 그 자리를 좀 대체한 것 같습니다. 어제 제가 본 영화도 프레임 변화가 굉장히 그 체감이 될 정도로 눈에 띄었었는데.
기자님, 너무 죄송한데요. 지금 전달이 마이크 쓰셔서 안 돼서 좀 가까이 대고 한 번만 다시 말씀해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
예. 그 1편이 그 3D가 핵심 코드였다면은 2편은 제가 보기에는 이게 하이프레임이 그 자리를 대체한 것 같은데, 그 어제 본 그 영화에서도 제 느낌상으로도 그 프레임 변화가 굉장히 그 체감이 크게 될 정도로 좀 눈에 띄었었는데, 영화 속에서 보면은 이 프레임 변화가 그러니까 프레임이 그 일관되게 가는 게 아니라 어떤 부분 이제 중간중간 그 프레임 변화를 연출적인 기법으로 주신 것 같은데, 그 기준점이 좀 어디에 있는지 좀 궁금하고요. 그러면 이 부분에서 하나만 더 존 랜더 프로듀서한테 여쭤보면은, 이 영화 말고도 이제 사실 하이프레임 영화는 할리우드에서는 아바타 이전에도 분명히 좀 있었는데, 하이프레임에 대한 그 영화들 관객들의 입장이 호불호가 굉장히 나뉘기는 합니다. 그 제작자 입장에서 혹시 그 하이프레임 영화에 대한 어떤 좀 개인적인 견해가 좀 있으신지 궁금합니다.
This question is about high frame rate, and to you, James, the first one really stood out in terms of what 3D can do. This time around, I saw the film yesterday. It blew my mind looking at the quality of the picture thanks to the high frame rate. But then, throughout the projection of the film, the frame rate is not consistent. It changes. What is did you have any a criteria on when you're going to switch? It would be great if you can elaborate on that. And to save time, the last question will go to John about the high frame rate. We've had some high frame rate films in Korea too, but among the audience there are some people who absolutely love it, but some people don't quite like it. Then as a producer, what's the merit of high frame rate, and what are your personal take or opinion about high frame rate films? And starting with you, James.
I think we've got to make a distinction here. You talk about a high frame rate film. We're not a high frame rate film. The whole film is not done at 48 frames per second, because we don't consider high frame rate to be a format like 70 millimeter or CinemaScope or any other format. We consider it to be an authoring tool that can be used or not used depending on whether we have issues that show up. So we made a decision, for example, that we would use it when the camera pans quickly or when somebody moves rapidly left to right across the frame, something like that, because it makes the 3D better. I don't think it adds value to a 2D film, or our release of the film in 2D. I don't think it's adding value. I think it adds value in the experience of the 3D, but it has to be used carefully, because sometimes it can make a scene feel a little bit like video or like it's been smoothed. And so we try to use it as sparingly as possible. Now, we did make a decision to use it in all of the underwater scenes because we felt from our testing that it added value to the experience. And so, you know, we use it sparingly. We use it when it adds value to the film, and we don't just do the whole film in it as a format. Of course, what's our goal here? Our goal is to make it the best possible experience in a cinema that it can be. So, you know, the big screen alone adds so much value, and we mix in Atmos sound, and we shoot in 6K raw files, native stereo, which to me is a big deal, because a lot of people just do 3D by adding it later. Post-production is not the same thing. I like to author in 3D as a director. It's part of my art form, part of how we work. So high dynamic range, high frame rate, stereoscopic imaging, all of these things, the quality of the visual effects work that we do with the Wet Effects Company down in New Zealand to make the emotions of the actors come through so clearly. To me, if you want to talk about what's important technically to this film, everything else is down here. And the quality of the emotional creation of these characters, I mean, the creation is done by the actors, but the preservation of it through the system into these non-human characters, which couldn't be done with makeup. It's what gives the film its grounding, its emotional power. And I would say that's the most important technological thing that we've managed to pull off here.
About you, John?
Jim said it. This is about creating an immersive narrative storytelling, so that audiences are engaged with the emotion and these characters and feel empathy for them. If you look at certain sequences, and Jim talked about it, if you go by a picket fence, it strobes. That takes you out of the movie. We use those moments to showcase what the high frame rate can do, but only when it improves the narrative experience. For us, the 3D experience is a window into a world. It should never be a world coming out of a window, because we want you to engage with this cast and the rest of our cast on their journey.
이번에는 전편과 달리 좀 추정신의 비중이 높았는데 영화에 참여하신 분들에게 강렬한 경험이었을 것 같아요. 그 조샐다나 배우께 수중 촬영 재밌었던 점과 또 어려운 점은 무엇이었는지 답변 듣고 싶고요. 또 제임스카메론 감독님께도 또 자세히 설명해 주시기는 어렵겠지만 수중 촬영 과정 어땠는지 한번 듣고 싶습니다.
수중 촬영에 대한 질문이네요. 네.
This question goes to Zoe, actually to Zoe and then to James. It's about underwater photography. So as an actor, how was it for you to really to try to perform underwater? And as the question for James is about, I guess, you know, shooting underwater, how was it for you? Starting with you, Zoe.
I guess it does present its challenges. You know, there's a lot of training and preparation that took place. But once again, we were surrounded with world-renowned free divers. We took our time learning to do this, because it wasn't just about capturing emotion. It was definitely about capturing the emotion of what our characters were going through. So there was never this expectation that we needed to be the best swimmers. It was just about getting us to feel as comfortable as possible, so that we can just devote our time and energy underwater to whatever moment our characters were experiencing. It was daunting, you know, to hear it from your boss. that tells you, and guess what? This time we're going to take it all underwater, not just 10 feet underwater, we're going to go 30 feet underwater. And you're kind of like, that's great, wow, how exciting. And then you go through all that training, and what you take away is not just a good performance that you feel very proud of, but it's also a skill set that you're able to take on into your personal life. I walked away with a brand new level of confidence to be in the water that I never had before. And I'm an island person. I come from generations of island people, but I never felt as comfortable as I do now after doing Avatar: Way of Water. About you, James.
So, the way I look at it is, if you're making a Western, you ask the actors at the audition if they can ride a horse. They always say yes. It's the strangest thing, isn't it? Right, so, I didn't bother to ask everybody if they were accomplished scuba divers or free divers. I assumed that we could train anyone, and that included the kids, in what they needed to do, and that we could do it safely. Because I had done that before on The Abyss with a cast, most of whom were not, in fact, all of whom were not divers. So I knew these were skills that, because they're mental skills, they're not physical athletic skills. When you learn to breath hold and hold your breath for minutes at a time underwater, that's more of a mental skill. Actors have strong minds, and they embrace preparation for the role. So I knew that this was something that everybody would lean into and want to learn. Actors always want to learn something as part of the development of their character, right? And some had more underwater scenes than others. In terms of the technological requirements, it was a whole new frontier. This was our big challenge on the film. Not only developing the physical means to capture underwater and to shoot underwater in 3D, that's two separate problems, but also the rendering of the water during the CG phase, which is done later after the actors are done, was also a big challenge. But we knew we were making a movie called The Way of Water. We got to figure this stuff out, right?
So, Sigourney, when you first heard you had to go underwater, I think your reaction was, you can't hold your breath for 30 seconds. But what did you end up doing after working with Kirk Pratt? How long?
It's true. I'm like a decent swimmer, and what Jim was asking us to do seemed a little more challenging than that. And of course, most people, I think, don't think they can hold their breath for a minute. But Jim never demands something from you without giving you, a lot of support to get there. And so we all had this amazing freediving instructor who teaches our Navy SEALs to take us really through a whole year of training till we really started in earnest doing the underwater stuff. And the thing that's funniest is that we're almost there, right? We're about to shoot, and then Jim sort of says, well, the main thing is, what I don't want to see your faces underwater doing, so you have to pretend that you're quite happy there, and relax your mouth, and relax your eyes, and just be. So that was, I think, the hardest thing, because it's an instinct.
He teach you guys how to do that. He taught them how to hold their breath for minutes at a time, and Sigourney was doing like 6 minutes underwater. But they left out the most important thing, which is don't do this. Right? Do this.
Wow.
So everybody then needed to learn how to hold their breath in the back of their throat, not up front at their lips. And that was at the last second. I said, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. And everybody's like, we don't know how to do that.
출연을 통해서 됐다고는 하지만 물에 대한 공부가 있는 저는 정말 여러분들이 대단하다고 밖에 말씀드릴 수밖에 없을 것 같습니다. 한 말씀을 부탁드릴 텐데요. 오늘 함께하신 소감 존앤드 프로듀서님부터 듣겠습니다.
So before we close, we would like to have, starting with you, John, and then we're going to make it backwards this time. So brief goodbye to the press before we close, starting with you, John.
Thank you all for coming out today. Cannot wait to share this movie with the Korean audiences around the country, up on the big screen, 3DX, 4DX, it's going to be IMAX, it's going to be everywhere. Go see it in the theaters.
Again, thanks for such a gracious reception. Great to be here, and we encourage you to love this film as much as we love it.
Yeah, I mean, we're thrilled to be here just to talk to you about the film, and I just have the feeling that it's such an amazing experience. It feels like more than a film. It's to be underwater for such a long time, and these visceral engagements with all kinds of creatures, including him, and just you're a member of the family as soon as this film starts. And for better or worse, you're with us. And to me, it's such a moving experience. Hope you enjoy it.
Well, in the words of the Navi, "Wanyati kameye." We see you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Sam. A man of few words, but good words. I just want to thank you all for coming out here today. Korea was a very important country for us on the first film. The first film was really accepted by Korean audiences, and so we hope that we have still a lot of fans here. There's a lot of sadness and darkness in the world today. And we hope this film can bring a bit of joy and a bit of light to everyone's lives. So, thank you.
네, 고맙습니다. 저희도 너무 감사해서요. 감사한 마음을 담아서 여러분들께 특별한 추억이 되고자 작은 선물을 준비했습니다.
Well, thank you for that. And before we let you go, hold on one second. We prepared a little gift for you. Those paintings.
네,
Just something to remember,
아바타,
right?
물의 길 민화입니다. 우리의 자랑스러운 한글 6글자에 우리 전통 민화와 영화 아바타를 섬세하게 녹여낸 그림이네요.
They are an elaborative combination of Korean letters, Korean traditional painting with the beautiful Pandurian creatures, and those letters make the title. As you
이것도 wave인데요? 파도인데요? It's wave. 네, 파도처럼 저희 아바타 물의 길 6글자를 여러분께서 들고 계십니다. One by one. 와우. 네, 고맙습니다. 네, 여러분 사진 예쁘게 많이 찍어주시기 바랍니다. Thank you, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
오늘 함께 해주신 분들께 진심으로 감사의 말씀을 드리면서요. 참석해주신 6분은 큰 박수와 함께 배웅해드리도록 하겠습니다. 제임스 감독님, 존 랜드 프로듀서, 그리고 샘워싱턴, 조샐다나, 시고니위버, 스티븐랭 배우님 고맙습니다. Thank you.
And you may leave the stage. You can leave the painting in on your seat, and it'll be delivered to you personally. Don't worry, we're not going to take these.
선물은 두고 가시면 저희가 이렇게 전달드리도록 하겠습니다. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. A gentleman. Thank you. Thank you very much.